Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over all the Outlaw of Thunder Junction spoilers from day 3, combos and synergies. We got a lot of cards today, and let's see what we got. This one is actually from yesterday, this new Arid Archway Desert Land. It comes into play tapped. When it comes into play, you return a land you control to its owner's hand, and if another desert was returned, this way you surveil 2, but it adds 2 mana. Now, anytime a land adds 2 mana, it has the potential to be quite broken, and I think this actually has potential in Standard to lead to a pretty big ramp deck. Spelunking lets it come into play untapped, and then you have a few cards that can let you untap the land. So essentially the Portent Tracker and the Rustvine Cultivator could untap it, and so essentially they tap for 2 mana each time. You also have this new card, Dance of the Tumbleweeds, that lets you search it out and put it into play so you can add some consistency. There, it's also sort of a payoff for having a bunch of lands in play. So, ideal draw would be like a turn 1 Cultivator, turn 2, put a counter on it, play a Portent Tracker with 2 forests, and then turn 3, float 2 mana, play the Archway, return 1 of the forests to your hand, untap it with the Cultivator, add 2, untap it with the Tracker, add 2, so that'll be 6 mana on turn 3. So pretty strong potential opener there. I think this has potential to ramp into a lot of mana, and there's a card later that I'm going to talk about which may be a good payoff for all the mana as well. So definitely something to keep in mind. We also got Terror of the Peaks, a reprint, a 5 mana dragon. So spells your opponents cast at target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast, a little bit of protection for it. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, it deals damage equal to the creature's power to any target. So a lot of combo potential with this card. It's seen play in the past in some combo dragon decks, I believe, things like that. In Standard, we have Yargle, which obviously, if you just wanted to play Terror of the Peaks on 5, Yargle on 6 mana, 18 your opponent, that could be fun. I also thought it would be pretty good with Galta. If you get Galta and Terror of the Peaks in play, it will do 12, and then any other creatures you put into play, it'll deal damage equal to their power. So maybe in a push-pull Reanimator deck where you can get Terror of the Peaks and Galta into play at the same time, or Terror of the Peaks and Yargle into play at the same time, then attack with everything, do a ton of damage all at once. There's a new call, this Railwade Brawler. Also, I thought could go into a push-pull deck. And it's kind of similar. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. You can plot it for 4 mana. So it's nice when you have creatures in the push-pull deck that you can actually just hardcast as well. So this could be one, and then when it comes into play, it's a 5/5 for each trample itself, but it would double up. Say if you had a Galta come into play also, it would be a 24/24 trample. So that would attack for lethal, hopefully. So another option for a push-pull deck, a lot of potential there. Let's see, we also have this Smuggler Surprise, a new spree card. 1 green, +2 to mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creature or land cards from among the milled cards in your hand. So kind of like a nice potential divination card advantage. Fill your graveyard, so you could see it in a deck that does that. The most exciting is maybe the second one, which is add 5 mana, and you can put up to 2 creature cards from your hand directly into the battlefield. So obviously I'm most excited probably for that piece. It also has +1 creatures you control with power 4 or greater, gain hexproof and indestructible in a turn, which is a nice little bonus. This card reminds me of like Tooth and Nail, kind of. I don't know if it's as good, although it's a little cheaper if you're just wanting the effect. And it's also an instant, so you can kind of just like surprise people. I think it's got potential in Standard. I put 2 Tyrannosaurus Rexes at the top, because that would be kind of fun to just put them both into play and attack right away, or maybe in older formats, you got the Xenagos plus World Spine Worm kind of combo. There's, I'm sure, a ton of different combination of 2 creatures that would win the game, or essentially win the game if you put them into play. So that's very exciting for this card. I think it's got a lot of potential. It's kind of nice that if you kick it again, you could give the World Spied Worm and the Xenagos hexproof and indestructible, so they couldn't even interrupt it with any sort of removal. Well, yeah, let me know in the comments any other sort of combinations of two creatures. Obviously, there's like Emrakul you could put into play. I don't know how they're going to fit an Emrakul in that giant horse. It's not big enough to fit two Tyrannosaurus Rexes, but apparently it works out. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about this one. Any other combos? I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff out there. We also got another round, which is a sorcery, 3 mana, but 2 double X. Exile any number of creatures you control, then return those creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control. Repeat this process X times. So this card has got obviously a lot of combo potential. It blinks everything you control, and then it could do that more than once. So if you pay 5 mana, it repeats it 1 time, so everything gets blinked twice. So anything with an enter the battlefield effect is pretty exciting with this. Like, I thought Topiary Stomper would be a nice kind of 1-2 punch, because you could play it on 3, and then it would ramp you to the 5th mana you need to play another round for X = 1. So it would blink the Topiary Stomper twice, and then any other creatures you had with enter the battlefield effects would be blinked as well, twice. I also thought maybe it's broken with the Geological Appraiser. I'm not exactly sure how you'd build the deck like this, but because Geological Appraiser would discover into it, I believe its casting cost is still 3. You'd cast another round, and then it would blink the Geological Appraiser, and then it would discover into another round, and then it would blink the Geological Appraiser. So you do that 4 times, or however many another rounds you have in your deck. You obviously would have a deck building restriction of you couldn't play anything that costs 3 or less, but it would essentially blink for 4 mana. You would blink everything in play 4 times, assuming there was 4 another rounds in your deck, which is pretty strong. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like that could be a pretty broken combo in standard or maybe other formats. Good old Geological Appraiser. Okay. We got Girid, Mirror of the Wilds, which is a legendary human shaman, 3 mana, Naya colors, 3/3 haste. On token creatures, you have tap, create a token that's a copy of target token you control that enter the battlefield this turn. I saw this on Twitter, so I can't take credit for this combo, but Dominating Vampire is kind of the key here, because when it comes into play, you get to untap another creature, and it gains haste. So if you create a token copy of Dominating Vampire, then you can untap the Girid to tap to create another copy, kind of like the Kiki-Jiki combo, essentially. So if you have Dominating Vampire out, and then you make a copy of it, a token copy of it with a Blade of the Shared Souls or Jaxis, and then you also had Girid out, and you tap the Girid to make a copy of the third or the second vampire. So now you have 3 vampires. Now you can use that third Dominating Vampire to untap the Girid and tap it to create another one, and then you have infinite. So it's a 3-card infinite. Pretty sweet. Kind of clunky. Obviously, it's like 9 mana total to kind of get this off. So I don't know. Maybe I'll build a jank deck around it, but pretty sweet. There's infinite combo with this guy. I think he's also just probably decent at creating a lot of value for you. There's a lot of tokens, there's like a 4/4 dragon token that you could copy with this every turn, and it also gives all your other creatures to this ability. So say you have a 1-drop, a 2-drop, this guy, and then on turn 4 you created a 4/4 dragon token. Then all of those guys could tap to create a copy of that dragon token, which would be pretty good with the new Magda is what I'm thinking about. something like that, or any other big token that there is out there. Let me know in the comments other combos maybe there are with this guy. I'm sure you can create copies of also just like map tokens or clue tokens or whatever. So a little value there, but I think it's got potential to have a home in standard. Okay, we got Tai Wen Perfect Shot, 2 mana human mercenary legendary. It says whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. So this can be a kind of card advantage if you shock a creature that has 2 toughness, you'll draw a card. And it also has ability X tap. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage plus X instead. It's pretty exciting to have a creature that essentially is tapping to just fireball every turn if you have ways to ping. And it adds that much damage to each ping, I believe, that you are doing that turn. I thought Chandra would be a nice way to enable this because it pings the opponent and adds a mana, so you can put that into his ability. Cards like Training Grounds and Enigma Jewel, I believe, can also be used to add mana to that ability. So you could really like supercharge it and maybe just one-shot your opponent with enough mana that you have for his ability. I think this one's got potential. 2 unique abilities and pretty strong. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one too. If there's anything I missed with this, I feel like there's something maybe I'm missing, but it's pretty cool card. We got Assimilation Agis. 3 mana equipment comes into play. Exile up to 1 target creature until it leaves the battlefield. So like Oblivion Ring effect. Becomes attached to a creature as long as it remains attached to it. That creature becomes a copy of a creature card exiled with it. Kind of a nice little bonus. The reason I'm highlighting this card is because it's sort of an Oblivion Ring, but it's also an equipment. And there are some sort of equipment payoffs in Standard now. We've got Astor, which can sort of look at the top 7 cards for an equipment and reduce the equipment costs. Kellen can also search for an equipment, so you could have this as sort of like a package, a tutor package if you had Kellen in your deck. Here he cares about how many equipments you have and wants you to attack with equipped creatures. So it's a removal spell, but also an equipment, so it kind of doubles up in an equipment deck. So some potential there, I think. We got the Hellspur Posse Boss, which is a Lizard Rogue 2/4. Other outlaws you control have haste. And when he enters the battlefield, create 2/1/1 red mercenary creature tokens with tap. Target creature gets +1/+0 until the turn, activated only as a sorcery. I thought of Devilish Valet as sort of a combo with this. Turn 3, Devilish Valet. Turn 4, you play this, you get the Alliance trigger 3 times. Right, and then so that would pump its power to 2, 4, and then 8, and then you could tap the tokens to pump its power up to 10, and then if you played another creature, like an Ornithopter, maybe for free, I don't know, something, or if you had any other thing that that you could play for free that turn, it would give its power to 20, and then you could attack right away. So some combo there. There's also a new card, Rise of the Vermins. Cute little vermins coming out. 4 mana for sorcery, create X 2/1 green vermin creature tokens. X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Maybe that also works with Devilish Valet. You can sort of plot it and then play the Valet on the next turn, and then play this at the same turn, and then sort of go off there. If you had 5 creatures in your graveyard, that would be enough to pump it up to a lethal attack. So maybe there's some combo there. Devilish Valet is one of my kind of pet cards. Very fun, and like to think of new combos with it. We got the Stingerback Terror, which is a 4 mana Scorpion Dragon. Flying Trample gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. So don't play this with 7 cards in your hand. And it's a 7/7, and you can plot it for 3. So I thought of Liliana Veil because it kind of can help you get rid of cards in your hand. It can get removal spells out of the opponent's hand. And this would be a nice kind of finisher in sort of maybe a red-black deck that was interested in that. Would finish the game pretty quickly. Also, maybe it works in a fight rigging deck if you're kind of low to the ground. Not sure. You'd have to have 0 or 1 cards in your hand for it to trigger fight rigging, but it has the potential to, which is always exciting when you don't necessarily have to play black in the fight rigging deck, but or a red-green version could potentially work as well. Yeah, let me know in the comments about this guy. I think this got potential. There's obviously dragon synergies in standard as well, so maybe it works with some of the dragon synergies. You can plot it and then sort of play it on a later turn if there's something that cares about dragons coming to play, like the let's see, the Terror of the Peaks, maybe. So plotting it on 3 and then play the Terror of Peaks and then play the Stingerback Terror do 7, something like that. Could be decent. And we've got the Forsaken Miner, which is a 1-mana skeleton rogue. Can't block. I'm rooting for a skeleton deck to be good. We'll see. Maybe this guy's gonna gonna turn the tides on it. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 black. If you do, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So there's a lot of combos with this. The first one I thought about was sort of Goblin Bombardment, which commits crimes when you sacrifice a creature, and so then it would trigger his ability. It would be in the graveyard, and then you could pay a black every time you do that. And then if you had a Pitless Plunder, I believe this kind of goes infinite damage to do 1 damage, commit the crime, and then it creates a treasure, and then you can use the treasure to bring it back. In standard, we have the Vile Smasher, which is also kind of a nice combo with this. If you have a sacrifice outlet, you can play the Forsaken Miner. It'll trigger the Vile Smasher with that ability on the stack, sacrifice the Forsaken Miner, and then the ability will resolve. You'll have committed a crime, and then pay 1 mana, return it. Then you can kind of loop that for every black mana you have. So yeah, let me know if there's any other combos. I think there's a ton of combos with this guy to sacrifice him and bring him back infinitely. So a lot of potential with this one as well. We got the Outcast Trailblazer, which is a 3-mana human druid for 2. When he enters the battlefield, add 1 mana of any color, so a little bit of a ramp. Whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, plot for 3. So interesting card. It is sort of like a ritual effect, which we hardly ever get in standard anymore. So you can plot this on 3, and then on turn 4 you can have 5 mana. In older formats, you could do like a Landwehr Elf on 1, and then plot this on 2, and then on 3. The only card in standard I could think of that works like pretty well with this is Invoke the Ancients, because you can plot it on 3, on 4, play it, you get 5 mana, Invoke the Ancients, and then both the the tokens that you get from Invoke the Ancients will trigger its ability, so draw 2 cards. Some value. I don't know if this card is going to see a lot of play, but that was kind of a nice little synergy that I wanted to point out. And lastly, we have the Intrepid Stable Master, which is a 2-mana 2/2 with reach, tap to add a green. So sort of a mana dork, but it has tap to add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast mounts or vehicle spells. So again, anything that taps for more than 1 mana is usually noteworthy. We'll see what other mounts we get in the set, or the vehicles. But this card, I think, is pretty strong in terms of being able to ramp out the Gitrog on turn 3 or Magmatic Galleon on turn 3. Both of those are pretty good to have way above the curve. You could even, play the Gitrog and then sacrifice this on turn 3 to ramp yourself, draw some cards, and put more lands into play if you wanted to do that. So yeah, definitely excited about this, and we're gonna have to kind of see what other mounts we get to see just how good it's going to be. But I think this has potential to see play as well. Okay, that is all the combos for today. please leave me a like, a comment, subscribe if you like this content. I really appreciate all the views I'm getting these days. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have an awesome day. And I'll be back tomorrow with more combos. All right, take care.